Now that Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is out in theaters around the world, a lot of fans are very intrigued about the future of the Star Wars franchise and what could have been for this movie based on all the reshoots and the rewrites that took place during the months of August, September, and October by Disney and Lucasfilm. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 is that we do know that this was by far the hardest project by Disney and Lucasfilm without question. That's not just because of the mess that Rian Johnson left behind with The Last Jedi that J.J. Abrams had to clean up, but also it's because of how many challenges and obstacles they really had to go through during production of Episode 9, which was really a big deal for Disney and Lucasfilm to actually go through, and that's one of the main reasons as to why it does feel convoluted or rushed at times in this movie. A lot of fans often agree with my point of view on that. At times it feels very fast-paced or way too, I guess you could say rushed or convoluted, like I say. Now, based on everything here for Episode 9, we do know that The Rise of Skywalker is a film that really does serve as a movie that really brings in new Star Wars lore, to bring in, of course, new possibilities by Disney and Lucasfilm about the future of the Star Wars franchise. Now, with that being said, we do know that this movie by JJ is going to be a movie that will conclude, obviously, the Skywalker saga. They're allowing no possibilities of the saga continuing for the future. Now, on top of all of this, it's explained that both Disney and Lucasfilm went through many changes and adjustments for the film during the months of August, September, and October, when they were beginning to do reshoots and rewrites for the film, to provide fans with a different tone for the film and to also explore other ideas for the plot and story. Now, during this process, many scenes were deleted from the film, and the plot, of course, that more than 30% of the film was reshot during the reshoots. One of the scenes that were shot that were deleted involved a sequence in which Mark Hamill and Hayden Christensen acted together as father and son, as Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker on the world of Ahch-To. This scene was said to be in the form of a flashback sequence, which of course Luke's Force Ghost would be telling Rey about his journey to Ahch-To and learning a big lesson by his father Anakin Skywalker and his Force Ghost, and that it was his father Anakin who led him to the first Jedi Temple with the help of a compass that he discovered on the world of Pilio in the Emperor's Vault. It's said that the flashback involved a segment where Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker was alive, standing in front of the tree library and talking with Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost, where Hayden delivered a couple of lines to Mark Hamill, and of course his portrayal of Luke Skywalker about the ways of the ancient Jedi in the Journal of the Wills. Now, the scene would be narrated by Luke's Force Ghost explaining to Rey that just before he closed himself off from the Force, he had one final moment with his father before closing himself off from the Force forever, making that decision and how he was wrong in making that decision specifically on his own. The scene was said to have been 100% complete, however was deleted from the film and replaced with the scene where Luke's Force Ghost tells Rey about his Jedi training with his sister Leia. The main reason both J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy decided to delete the scene was because they felt it didn't make much sense for Luke to tell a story about his father to Rey, a person in which Rey has never met, and that a story about Leia made more sense to Kathleen Kennedy and J.J., and so they stuck with that idea instead. Now, the Anakin and Luke reunion scene was said to be a brief yet very powerful segment with a brand new Skywalker theme that was done, of course, by John Williams, which was also erased. It would have explored Luke's final moments before shutting himself off from the Force, hence why the Force Ghost could no longer reach out to Luke during his time on Ahch-To. The scene was said to take place at night on Ahch-To, where Anakin's Force Ghost would be surrounded by all these floating orbs around him as he talked to his son Luke Skywalker, teaching him a brief lesson about the ancient Jedi and the Wills. At one point, Hayden was actually said to be holding the Journal of the Wills in his hand and giving it over to Luke as he read a passage from the book that would allow Luke to understand the ancient language. The scene was said to have been directed by George Lucas, and that this was actually deleted at one point in time in August of 2019 when the major reshoots were taking place. The scene was also said to be a very powerful and emotional moment as well. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, the thing about the reshoots that really is very unfortunate for a lot of fans out there is that obviously a lot of fans went into this movie wanting to see Anakin Skywalker. Now, There were a number of scenes shot with Hayden Christensen as Anakin's Force Ghost before they did the reshoots, and how Kathleen Kennedy believed in the less is more concept, where she wanted to mystify the fans and to actually make fans think about what Anakin really looks like as a Force Ghost, along with all of the other ones like Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, and all the others that were actually heard at the very end of this movie, labeled as Jedi voices of the past. Now, the thing about this that's really, pretty much a letdown is the fact that we were supposed to get a reunion between father and son, a moment where Luke Skywalker was still alive, though in the form of a flashback, but still alive on Ahch-To, before he closed himself off from the Force, as we learned in The Last Jedi. This was a scene that was said to take place well before the events of The Force Awakens, as Luke's Force Ghost is telling Rey this story, where we would see the visuals of Luke's story being told between, of course, himself and Anakin Skywalker, telling him about the Journal of the Wills and the Ancient Jedi. Now that, to me, it sounds like that they really had a lot of potential to make this movie very powerful and emotional about the Skywalkers themselves. Again, I think that's one of the big complaints about this movie, is that it's called The Rise of Skywalker, yet it has little to nothing to do with both Luke or Anakin. Obviously, you know the meaning of the title if you have seen the film and if you have seen the ending of the movie, and that's one thing that a lot of fans are divided over. A lot of fans either agree with that decision by JJ or actually do not agree with it. And I think that, the ratio is more so that a lot of fans don't agree with that decision, is that a lot of fans, including myself, feel that the Skywalker should have been Ben Solo. Honestly, that's how it really should have turned out to be, in my opinion. So with that being said, everything related to Anakin Skywalker, yes, we do get to hear his Force Ghost at the very end of the film when he's reaching out to Rey, along with all of the others, providing her power from the netherworld of the Force. Originally, though, we were supposed to learn more about the Journal of the Wills. In case you guys are not informed about the Wills, these are godlike beings who watch over the entire Star Wars galaxy and the universe. In fact, the Wills are the beings, the creatures, if you will, who created the entire universe in the Star Wars franchise, essentially. And that would have been a very interesting scene to see Anakin Skywalker, as a Force Ghost, lending knowledge over to his own son Luke about the Journal of the Wills and about everything related to the books left on the world of Ahch-To inside of the TRILOGY, which, by the way, is an extension of the First Jedi Temple. Now, everything related to the First Jedi Temple, we're going to be learning more about this year of 2020. Of course, with the new Star Wars universe, it's going to kickstart by Disney and Lucasfilm. They plan to actually bring in new comics, books, and novels that's going to expand everything related to the Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens, and beyond. Everything that happens after Episode 9 is also going to be explored as well, showing us the story of Rey Skywalker and everything around those lines. Like I say, guys, I still can't accept being, the fact that Rey is a Skywalker just by her choice. I feel that that should have been changed, or maybe at least somewhat, tweaked, maybe to the point where she at least has some form of a DNA of the Skywalker bloodline. That would have made more sense to me personally. The last thing I just want to touch on here real quick is Hayden Christensen. There's no doubt about it that I feel that Hayden got really shortchanged with this movie. I mean, the fact that he shot scenes as Anakin and they were ultimately deleted from the film and put to the wayside and thrown into the trash, I think is very disrespectful for the character of Anakin, and it was a big missed opportunity by Disney and Lucasfilm. So, like I said, guys, I mean, I'm very excited still about the future Star Wars films to come because Kathleen Kennedy will no longer be involved with them on a creative level. So that's one thing to look forward to, and that is something that she actually had the opportunity to do, for the sequel trilogy movies. She had the ability to make creative decisions. And that, thankfully, will no longer be a thing for the future Star Wars movies and the live-action TV series. So, hopefully we do see a nice little change here with Star Wars once she either leaves Lucasfilm in 2021, or if she does stay and only is involved with the planning of these new movies and these new TV shows. And I think that's the ultimate decision by Bob Iger, CEO of Disney. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.